In 2021, HERE-Geneva undertook research looking into the future of humanitarian coordination. The final output of this project, a roadmap, aims to move from analysis to solutions. It suggests short, medium, and long-term milestones to reach a form of fit-for-purpose humanitarian coordination that has a clear strategic vision, is value-driven, and incentivized. How do we achieve a form of humanitarian coordination that follows a clear strategic vision? In the short term, we need to recognize that there are competing demands and trade-offs between setting clear priorities and strategic direction and ensuring inclusive participation. For those in coordination leadership positions, this implies regularly working on ensuring that there is clarity on what coordination is expected to achieve. Is it purely technical coordination, for example, around information sharing, or does it have a more strategic aim? Shareholders, governments, donors, agencies should frequently be asked to reflect on the purpose of their participation. Similarly, agencies should be required to explain why they want to join humanitarian coordination mechanisms. Simply explaining what they aspire to do is not enough. Organizations should be able, when pushed by donors or coordinating bodies, to explain their strengths, their added value, and what their purpose is when engaging with partners or shareholders. Agencies, as well as OCHA and donors, also need to consider how to connect various cross-cutting commitments and reflect on how commitments entered into at HQ level connect with the country level. How do you prioritize? HQ should lead discussions around how to suitably tailor commitments to specific contexts. Finally, there is a role for donors in the short term. They need to call for a review of the role and effectiveness of inter-cluster coordination bodies, especially when it comes to prioritization. The Inter-Cluster Coordination Group, for example, ought to ensure true prioritization. To ensure that humanitarian coordination follows a clear strategic vision in the medium term, we need policy discussions that recognize complexity and acknowledge the need for strategic humanitarian objectives that are more than the sum of the parts. This requires clarity and transparency from all actors at all levels. Those in coordination leadership positions need to lead by example, being honest about the areas where convergence and collective action is feasible, and about those where it cannot be achieved due to diverging views. Meaningful partnerships and interagency coordination are only possible when there is clarity around how different actors interpret humanitarian action and conceive their purpose. The big picture should be kept in mind. Humanitarian principles, protection, and accountability should be at the center of discussions. In their next strategies, agencies should consider how their strategic humanitarian objectives align with broader trends, such as the UN Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework. How feasible are their objectives? What is their impact? What are the required trade-offs? With donor support, OCHA, the IASC, and cluster lead agencies at the global level, and OCHA and humanitarian coordinators at the country level, should be clear on what elements of humanitarian coordination are strategic, why they are strategic, and what the decision-making process is. The major purpose of coordination, beyond operational outcomes like avoiding duplication, is to manage competing demands and prioritize. Donors should push OCHA to clarify this. Ensuring clear priority setting may require decision-making to take place among a smaller group of participants, which in turn requires explicitly defined criteria for inclusion. And lastly, donors and OCHA should clarify the link between interagency coordination and cross-cutting commitments. How do you prioritize? How do you ensure accountability? Donors also need to reflect on the implications for collective action of their bilateral funding relations with agencies. Pushing their own priorities, pushing for specialization, may cause agencies to lose their overall vision of how everything connects. Much like agencies need a forum to discuss priority setting among themselves, so too should a donor-only forum exist, allowing for consultations on differences and complementarities. Alternatively, revitalizing the Good Humanitarian Donorship Initiative might allow a better formulation of common agendas. In the long term, the goal is the following: a coordination architecture truly geared towards a clear and realistic humanitarian strategic vision with appropriate connection to development goals. This video is the second of 5. For a general overview of the roadmap, we recommend checking out the first episode. The next installments will cover the other thematic issues one by one. An interactive, clickable version of the roadmap goes into greater detail as to what the recommendations entail. We recommend opening it in Adobe to optimize use. All project outputs are available at here-geneva.org/future-of-humanitarian-coordination.